I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 318 of the Brilliant Balance podcast, and today we're talking about staying on track, holiday food and fitness tips for working moms. So, welcome, my friends. This is the second episode of my holiday series here on the show. And so I just want to start by saying, if you did not get to listen to last week's episode 317, you might want to go back and catch that one either before or after you listen to today's. The topic last week was all about streamlining the season. And I gave you my best strategies for having like a holiday roadmap, a plan essentially for what is going to get done between now and the first of the year, however you celebrate the holidays. So again, if you haven't listened to that one, it might be good to go back and catch it. Today, we're talking all things food and fitness. And then in the coming weeks, I'm going to get into additional topics that I'm getting questions about and I know are on your mind throughout the holiday season. So I'm kind of excited about doing this one as a series. All right, if you pressed play today, then we know what's on your mind, which is how am I going to navigate the season that is so full of treats and so full of extra activities that it might create some pressure on my food and fitness routine. And again, if you pressed play today, I'm going to make the assumption that you want to stay on track during the season. And, you know, if you're new to my work or you're new to Brilliant Balance, I want to just get a little bit about my philosophy out here so that you know who you're dealing with when it comes to this topic. I am the opposite of a quick fix person. You will never hear me overpromise. You'll never hear me give you a gimmick or like a true hack for something. There are too many things in life that just require some effort, some sustained effort, some focus and intention. And this is very much one of those things. So in terms of what you're going to hear from me, I am going to take a very middle ground approach as it relates to food and fitness. Personally, I would describe myself as an everything in moderation person. I try to give myself lots of really delicious food, things that I look forward to eating, things that are, you know, kind of beautiful to look at. I am a total food geek. I love all things about food and cooking, right down to shopping for it. I know most people do not agree with this, but it's a passion for me. And fitness is a long-standing habit for me. Basically, my entire adult life, I've had a very regular fitness routine. And so that's the perspective I'm going to be bringing into today. This is not a time or an episode where I'm going to say, hey, if you're coming from a standing start and you feel like your food habits are a mess and you have no fitness regimen, this may feel like where the baseline is established is a little further than where you are. So I would just say, make adjustments. You'll hear me say a lot, 1 is greater than 0. So something is better than nothing in this arena. And just listening to the episode and letting it kind of soak in and having some of these ideas running in the back of your mind, you know, maybe those will surface at critical moments throughout the season and they might help you. And that's my intention for today. I want to get you to January feeling level set, right? Feeling good, feeling like you have a solid sense of energy with you as you head into the new year and not feeling like you've dug yourself into a hole and there's a whole lot of work to do just to get back to baseline. Okay. So the ideas that I'm going to share today are simple. And I pulled this into 4 words. They all start with the letter R to make it easy for you to remember them. And the first one is reasonable. Okay. I want us to agree that we'll be reasonable about our intention or our goal as it relates to this season. This is probably not the time to say, hey, by January, I'm going to have a 6-pack, right? By January, I'm going to be able to run an ultra marathon. I mean, maybe some of you out there have those kind of goals, but this is probably the time where a reasonable goal looks mostly like not going backwards, you know, like not going backwards in terms of your personal health and wellness. For lots of you, that will involve your weight because that is the hot topic among women, right? But really, I want you to think about how you feel in addition to what is the number on the scale. There's too much noise in the number on a scale for that to be the single metric, and we can talk about that another day. I want you to really think about, how do my clothes feel on my body? How does my mobility feel? How do my joints feel? Do I have pain? Do I feel a sense of ease as I'm moving through my day? Do I feel like I'm retaining a lot of water? Do I feel like I'm having too much salt or sugar? What does my energy level feel like, right? And one marker of that might be the number on the scale, but it is certainly not the only one, right? We just want to feel good in our bodies. And I'm thinking about two aspects of this: the food that you're putting in your mouth and the way that you're moving your body, right? Those two practices are what we want to kind of hone in on today. So what does reasonable look like for you? And that will vary depending on your baseline. And by baseline, I mean, what are you doing right now? What are you coming into this season with, right? Are you working out most days? Are you making good choices around food most days? If you are, then that's kind of where we want to stay, right? Wherever your baseline is, a reasonable goal or intention probably looks like simply not going backwards. Okay. You can make a little bit of movement forward, great. But this is not probably the time to be the hero. Why? Because there are so many other things clamoring for your attention during this season, right? This is a season with a very high cognitive load, 1,000 things that you are trying to carry around in that very tired, overcrowded brain. And so we don't want 1,000 thoughts a day to be about food and fitness, right? It's just not the time for them in most cases. Which brings me to the second R, which is routine. So there is one time in this whole season, and that is today, that we want to do some thinking about food and fitness. And what we are going to do is create a little bit of a routine, or keep the one you already have, right? Agree to keep the one you already have. And this routine will make it so much easier to move through this month without having to think so hard. Okay, we're going to kind of sit ourselves down and figure this out once instead of thinking about it every day. Just imagine the freedom that that is going to give you in that very crowded mind of yours to do other things. So a couple decisions that we want to make about this routine. What are the essentials at your baseline? Right? What are the things that you do regularly that are going to keep you feeling good or get you feeling good? Couple things to consider in this, and there is no exactly right answer. I'm giving you inspiration here, and take whatever feels good to you. It could be things like, hey, I know when I have this very consistent breakfast, like when I eat this particular thing for breakfast, I feel great, right? It starts my day off. It keeps me out of the snacking habit. I've got my body and my kind of blood sugar managed in the morning. It could be that you feel great when you have a particular lunch. I have a favorite lunch. I eat it as often as I can. I know you're going to ask me what it is because I said that. So if I were going to make like my favorite little lunch, it's a little plate with some grilled chicken that I've pre-cooked and cut into little slices, a couple of different vegetables, maybe cucumbers and peppers, and something to dip them in, right? Could be hummus, could be some kind of a dip that I make. That plate of food at lunch, if that is available to me every day, I just don't have to think about it, right? I'm so happy. So something that you can have consistency. It could be that you subscribe to a dinner meal kit. We have tons of people using like HelloFresh and other meal kits where they don't have to think about what they're making for dinner. The ingredients are showing up and they know what they're making, right? So when you think about meals, breakfast, lunch, what's your plan around dinner? What are you going to do about snacks? What kind of healthy, good for you, satisfying snacks that don't, send you on a bender where you're eating an entire bag of something, but that kind of tides you over if you need it? We all have our favorites. What are a couple of things that you need to keep in the pantry or in the refrigerator that you can easily pack with you or have on hand? That would be a good kind of thing to think through as part of establishing this routine. So if you think about feeding yourself, it's probably going to come down to breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack or two. And if those are thought through in advance, what am I always going to have available? Am I going to shop for that? Am I going to order stuff from Instacart, right? Or Amazon delivery so that I have it here and ready for me? This is what I mean by sitting down and figuring it out once to create the routine. Hi, it's Cherylanne. Thanks for listening. Did you know that the ideas I share on this show are things I also can help you implement? If you want me in your corner helping you find more time for what fills you up, go to brilliant-balance.com/schedule and sign up for a free exploratory call. Give yourself this time. You'll be so glad you did. When that comes to fitness, I want you to think about the words minimum viable dose. It's a little bit of a play on words. For my entrepreneurs out there, you'll know minimum viable product, right? Which is a term we use in entrepreneurship when we're testing and learning our way to a new initiative. Minimum viable dose, I think of as how much of this can I get away with doing that will just help me not go backwards, okay? So when you think about exercise, you think about moving your body. Again, you don't have to spend 2 hours a day driving to a gym, doing a big fitness routine, and coming home and getting cleaned up. This might be the season in which you strip that down to the essentials. But I want you to think about what will you do and when will you do it? Okay? If you are clear in this routine about what you'll do and when you'll do it, it will carry you through the entire season. You want to make that time kind of ironclad. You want this to be a time where it is very unlikely that something is going to get in your way, take your attention, right? Cause you to reprioritize. For me, that is often early in the morning, like first thing in the morning before my day gets away from me is the time that I know I can be the most consistent about exercise. At this time of year, when it gets dark early, there's also kind of that late afternoon window before it gets dark. I'm kind of wrapping up my workday, ideally, right? And it's not quite dark yet. That's a great time for me to get outside. So I think fresh air at this time of year is amazing. If you live in a warm climate, good for you. I'm so happy for you. If you live in a colder climate where it's really starting to get colder, I think we're trying to find those times of day when we can get the sunshine and we can get some fresh air without it being a miserable experience. So especially if you find yourself in this season with a day where it's sunny and you can get yourself outside for some movement, you're getting that double benefit of the fresh air. Okay. So in your routine, both from a food standpoint, what do I really just think about it today? Like, sit down with a paper or your laptop or your phone and figure out what are the foods I think I could have around that would make sure I had a healthy baseline. And then what am I going to do for exercise and when am I going to do it? Very important. And I will say this, when you think about exercise routines at this time of year, I taught this a couple of years ago. Paradoxically, strength training is often more impactful than cardio. Okay. Personally, I think about doing cardio as a stress release. Like if I'm going to move and sweat, there is a huge emotional benefit to that, but it takes more time and it takes more recovery time because you're probably going to need a shower. You might have to wash your hair, right? All of that is a reality for women. Strength training is something that takes less time to get the impact, and often you can kind of fit it into the middle of your day, right? Without feeling like, oh my gosh, now I have to go take this big shower and start over again. So if strength training is already a part of your fitness regimen, you might be surprised that keeping that as the top priority might even outweigh keeping time in for cardio, okay? Other hot tip when it comes to finding a routine is what works for you might be to break this up into short increments. So rather than saying, I'm going to take a full 30 minutes or I'm going to take a full hour, which by the way, I do not do a full hour, right? I think 30 minutes of focused work's pretty good for most of us. If you can get even that broken up into 3 10-minute sessions, maybe you do have 10 minutes while the kids are getting ready. Maybe you have 10 minutes while you have a break between meetings, and maybe you have 10 minutes while dinner is cooking, that you can piece this together instead of doing it all at once, right? Remember, 1 is greater than 0. So literally anything that we do will be better than just saying, you know what, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to do it at all. So we talked about being reasonable about our goals or intentions, and we talked about routine. So one time, kind of figure out what the routine will be so that we have it scheduled. Third R is repeat. Okay, we're going to put that routine on repeat to lower the cognitive load, to lower how much we have to think about this during this very busy time. So what if that breakfast that you decided you like and that feels good for you, what if you ate that every day? Right? What if there was no variation over the next series of weeks here until we get to January? It's just, this is my breakfast. Or what if your lunch was that way? It's like, you know what? I don't care if I'm bored. I just don't want to have to think for this season, this is what I'm going to have, right? Or the same snack. What if you did the same workouts every day or the same sequence of workouts, right? This is really not the time for fancy and new. Please do not go start Googling, workout plans where you have to follow all these movements that you've never done before. Yeah, I see you out there. Like, I know we'll be like, oh, we can find the 30-day holiday fitness plan, right? Just keep it simple. Put it on repeat. Think about the things that you like them enough that you will do them with consistency during the season. So the idea of having this on repeat is a strategy to help you not have to be thinking so hard during a season when we're already thinking hard about lots and lots of other things. Okay. So I get that that might sound a little boring. I get that you might think, oh my God, really? The same thing every day? I mean, you could make it the same thing every day for a week and then change it the next week, right? You might have two things that you alternate between. Feel free to make this your own, but the fewer decisions that you're asking yourself to make about food and fitness, and the more you're focused on just executing the plan you already created, truly, truly, the better off you're going to be. Okay. And the last R, probably my favorite, might be yours too, is relish the treats, right? Relish the treats. I've spent this entire episode talking about the baseline. I know that every single day, every single meal will not be at baseline. That's why we call it a baseline, right? That is your standard to come back to. That is home base, right? The plan that you establish is what you're going to do most days. But of course, we want there to be days where something special is happening. And that's where you want to lean in to really savoring those special treats, right? Choosing the days off from exercise because there's something more exciting to do. And you want to do that on purpose and with joy, right? Deciding what's worth it to you. And the way that this becomes something that I truly relish, or you might truly relish, is to skip all the fillers. This is not like, oh, there's that crappy Christmas cookie at this, thing I don't even want to be at. And it just looks gross and dry, but I'm going to eat it anyhow because it's there. Those are the ones that we can probably learn to walk past so that when you do have that peppermint mocha from your favorite coffee shop or that gooey cinnamon roll that your mom makes every year, on Christmas morning, that we want to truly enjoy those things because we had that baseline. So the whole purpose of the baseline is to say it's what gives you the freedom to move away from that on special days where there is some kind of a treat or an extra that you're really excited about. If every single day becomes a treat day, it has diminishing returns, right? If every single meal has a lot of holiday extra, it has diminishing returns. And you don't have to look any further than the way a lot of us feel the last week of December, right? If you celebrate Christmas, that week between Christmas and New Year's, when it is just one thing after another, one heavy holiday meal after another in a lot of households, you get to the end of it like, I can't even do that. I cannot even look at another cheesy appetizer. I'm so done eating them, right? And then our bodies actually start to crave, if we're tuned in, that reset back toward lighter and simpler foods. So we want to give it that reset regularly throughout the month, right? We want to have regular, simpler foods and this baseline of fitness so that when we go to one event, right, or we host one party, we can have kind of whatever we want because it's one day or one meal, and then we're back to the baseline. So again, this is all a choice. If you want to do your holidays differently and the way that feels good to you is I want to make it a complete free-for-all. This is my time of year where I eat absolutely everything I want and I don't work out. Okay, right? Then you are probably at peace with the offset to that, which is we get to January if we want to come back to where we were in November with some work to do. But if you want to get to January saying, I feel pretty good, I didn't go backwards. The ideas that I'm sharing today, I think you'll find to be really effective and not particularly restricting, right? There's plenty of room to say yes to something that you love and to still have a lot of days where you're kind of working through a routine, not thinking too hard about it, and feeling really good by the time you're putting yourself to bed at night. I didn't talk today about sleep because we really wanted to focus on food and fitness. But I will say one of the things that is sort of intertwined with this is the idea of getting enough sleep. If you don't get enough sleep, your ability to execute these choices is diminished. It's kind of like it puts a damper on willpower. And you will feel like you need more treats to get yourself through the day. You'll feel like I don't have the energy to do this exercise, particularly if you told yourself you were going to exercise in the morning. So if you want to know the force multiplier, right, the biggest enabler to really staying on track, it would be mindful of your sleep schedule. Don't use staying up later as the way to handle the overload. That's why we had the last episode, 317, talking about streamlining the season, because I really want sleep to stay on track this month so that you have the mental resources available to you, the emotional reserves available to you to make good choices. Okay? All right. That is all for today, my friends. Next week, I am going to come back and talk about gift giving. We're going to talk about gift giving without regret in next week's episode. So tune in for that one. Till next time, my friends, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.